So there I was, fresh out of Australia, in Florida, at 18, living with 2 roommates in a rented house way before cell phones and even before email was invented. I called my dad back in Australia, who hand makes Crocodile Dundee Aussie leather hats. And I said, I've dropped out of college and I want to start a business. Can I buy some hats from you? Since my Aussie accent was so thick back then, I remember having to cold call stores all around the country in America, and I'd have to fake an American accent, and I'd try to explain what an Aussie leather hat was. Would you buy a hat from this fanny pack wearing kid that looked like a hippie version of Crocodile Dundee? So for the next 15 years, I really struggled to keep the business going, and I almost actually went out of business while I was selling hats at the 1996 Atlanta Olympics.
Heartbreak for some vendors who had already given up their Olympic hopes. They were on their way out of town, and they lost everything. Team 96 reporter Dave Statter tells us about an Olympic dream that turned into a nightmare.
You may not have given this smoldering camper a second look as you passed by on I-75. But as firefighters and others began removing the charred contents, a few eyes opened. Hundreds of hats and coats piled up along the highway. The 3 people from Washington State and Australia got out just in time.
It wasn't really happening for us, so we decided to head on.
Not only were their Olympic dreams dashed when they hardly sold anything here in Atlanta, now they've lost their entire stock, about $200,000 in coats and hats.
It just wasn't really turning out too well, but you know, it wasn't a great loss, but now this has happened, so I mean, a bit of a disaster. What can you say?
Thankfully, my parents, who are entrepreneurs, encouraged me to stick with it and to just not give up. Also, my expenses were incredibly low, and this is where my friends, most of them thought I was absolutely crazy. I decided to move into my tiny metal rented warehouse. I was there for 7 years, living in this place with no air conditioning, no heating, no windows. Because of that sacrifice, I was able to buy 2 acres of industrial land where our warehouse is now, and also a really small fixer-upper house in downtown St. Augustine. For me, it's about building a good life and having the freedom to make my own decisions. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay tuned for part 2 of my story soon.